Hey everyone, I'm Krista Watanabe,
And I'm Neoshia Roemer.
and this is Wires from the Deep. Welcome to Wires from the Deep, a Silo series podcast. Today is Thursday, July 9, 2026, and you're listening to episode 32, The Shawshank Silo. Today, Neoshia and I will be breaking down the second episode of Silo Season 3, It's All Good. So to start off, we're going to first discuss the Silo Origins promotional video that came out earlier this week. I first saw this on Instagram and I was just kind of like casually watching it. And then I saw like a shot of like the silo being constructed. And I was like, oh my God. And then I
Yeah.
watched it in like the full like YouTube version just before we started this. And oh, it was really good. It had like really good pulse pounding music and it was very exciting. It's got like interviews with Graham Yost and the cast. And what did you think?
So, I think coming off of episode two and watching it, it kind of confirmed some of the things I was thinking about episode two and
Yeah.
why I've been like looking forward to this season because it seems like we're gonna get some questions answered in terms of like the why and, the
How?
fact that, yeah, and they're talking about the parallel stories, which they don't call them that. They call them like two different stories that are happening at the same time, but they're parallel stories, I think, just based on what we see in episode two
Yeah.
already.
And I mean, before we even get to the breakdown, though, I just feel like the parallel storytelling in this season is already really good.
Hmm.
Yeah, the way that they weave it together, I'm very impressed by it. So,
Yeah.
but this promo included a lot of stuff from the rest of the season, stuff that we haven't seen in either episode 1 or episode 2. So it was very exciting. Like I said, it shows the silos being constructed. It's got meetings with Per Stenson, and like Thurman is giving a rousing speech. She's talking about how this is the biggest endeavor since World War II. And like you've got Rebecca asking, how do they take control of thousands of people? Which I thought was a really interesting question and something that I think has been on the minds of people. Like, how did what you said? How did they get here? Right? How did they get
Yeah.
them in there?
Which is also interesting too, the World War II analogy, because that's really the only time in American history that we've ever like came close to nationalizing industry. Like it got real close, and there's like Supreme Court cases about this because of how close it got, and like whether we should be able to like nationalize the steel industry in times of war and stuff like that. So I found that to be an interesting analogy.
And then they also had Graham Yost asking or saying, "We're gonna see how they got everyone into the silos, right?" Or something like
Hmm.
that.
Something
Yeah,
along those lines.
yeah. So that sounds very exciting. I'm very eager to see the rest of the season.
Yeah, I feel like this episode really teed up a lot of interest for me. The don't get me wrong, I like the premiere, but I felt a little bit more connected to this episode.
Yeah, yeah. It was very meaty. There was a lot to it. And when I was watching it, I was like, this explains a lot, right? I mean, they basically lay it all out in the past stuff to show you why it's happening in the future. So,
Yeah. It's also good. I think it's, that phrase or that quote, like the idea that you have to understand your history you have to know your history to understand your future, or where you're headed, because if not, you repeat the same mistakes over and over.
yeah.
And so I think getting to know the history is going to be an important part of what's going on.
All right, so getting into the breakdown, the episode opens right after the last one ended with Juliet burning the note, but someone knocks, and so she actually doesn't burn the whole note. She only burns like a corner of it, and she's like smashes out the flame, and then she goes to the door, and it's Camille. Ew, Miss Miss Gaslighter in charge.
Like, I know you don't really like her, but, like, and I know other people don't like her. I haven't read the books, so I don't know why people don't like her. I guess she's kinda like my Cersei Lannister of the series.
I don't think there's a Camille in the books, so
Oh,
yeah.
okay. So this is just I seen her in the show, and it's like, I don't like what I'm seeing. Okay, okay.
But Camille's just there to like give Juliet some encouragement. Oh, you did so well at the council meeting. And okay, so she says, I smell smoke. And Juliet tells her, oh, I didn't like the soup. When does Juliet ever like the soup? Apparently never.
Never.
She's a soup waster. But
Mm.
she says she reheated some pizza. And I was like, what? There's
Yeah, where
pizza in the silo?
yeah, like, where did they get pizza at? And then also too, she wasn't even sure. She was like, pizza."
The pizza comes from Refuge Pizza Hut. Okay.
That's the one chain that they kept was Pizza Hut for obvious reasons.
But yeah, I was just like, what? Pizza. Although in Paradise, they have cheese fries with like what? It was cashew cheese or something.
Yeah, like the vegan cheese because they don't have animals.
But that was like goopy cheese. So I don't know.
I mean, but have you ever tried like cashew-based products? They're actually I made a leek soup. I got it from Courtney Cox's Instagram account, by the way. It was like this leek soup, which I was like, I don't know how this is gonna taste. But you use cashews, like you soak them in water and then you like
Huh.
pulverize them. It's actually really good. Like
Oh,
the
really?
richness, yeah. So I mean, like the cashew cheese probably wasn't bad.
Oh,
Probably
that
wasn't bad.
sounds. I mean, it does sound good because cashews are my favorite nut. So it's
Mhm.
my weakness when there's like a whole mixed. There's like a mixed nut thing. I always go for the cashews first.
Yep. They're very rich.
Yeah, but after that, Camille goes to report to her boss, the overseer. Let's just go with overseer. It's a lot easier to say than algorithm.
The algorithm. Yeah, overseer's good.
But she watches footage of Juliet in her kitchen trying to burn the note, which was what was happening just before she got to the door. But I, what did you think of the footage she was watching? I thought it looked clearer than anything that janitorial has. You know what I mean? And I was
E
wondering if this is different from what they watch within the silo.
Perhaps
It
because
looked,
I mean, this is like the overseer, I mean, it's kind of implied in the name, right? Like they're seeing everything. They probably have access to all of the cameras,
yeah.
direct access, not just the filtered. Because I would imagine janitorial doesn't get to see unedited video. I think they get to see whatever the overseer says they can.
Uh, I'm just saying that because I thought maybe it's possible that the overseer has extra cameras that janitorial doesn't have access to. Like maybe they have like the old tech, but the
Mm,
overseer has like the more modern stuff. Because obviously the computer that the interface that Camille uses is way more advanced than the other stuff in the rest of even from what janitorial has, right? So like everybody else, like the ordinary citizens, their computers are like super old, right?
mhm.
Their tech is way below what there's like tech layers within the silo. So
Right, and I mean, because I think that's probably part of it, right? Is keep the tech
yeah,
old because there's even talk of like the typewriter and anyway, we'll get to
yeah,
that.
yeah, and like because like that's why they have in the first season they have instead of printed pictures they have paintings of people and like when Juliet sees that video of George, that's the first time she's ever seen a video because he's telling her this is called a video because they don't have that kind of technology available to them, and it's something that we don't really think about nowadays because we all have access to cameras on our phones and there's
Mhm,
cameras everywhere and we're just used to it. But these people live in a society where they don't have that kind of tech, right? It's
right.
just not there for them. So, but yeah, I just when I saw it, and it's from over her head, so it's like in her ceiling, kind of, and it just looked clearer and more colored, and so I was just like, oh, that doesn't look like anything we've seen before.
No, and I mean, like, I would imagine too, probably the hiding place of the cameras would impact what type
Yeah,
of cameras they are, back to your point
yeah.
about maybe janitorial just has older tech.
Yeah, because like the ones that janitorial has, it's smashable. It's the ones that people were smashing in the hallways and everything with like the
Mhm,
glass lens and everything. But maybe the one that the overseer has just like a tiny little dot in like the ceiling that like even they can't even comprehend that could be a camera. Like maybe they don't even have the capacity tech wise to think that might be a camera, right? Because we've seen even now, like on TV, like tiny little button cameras and stuff like that. So the tech with cameras like now, it could be that the overseer has access to stuff that's much more undetectable, right?
Right.
So the overseer says that the bigger concern is not the note, but the fact that she lied to Camille about it. And it says that the medication can only erase what was, and that if Juliet doesn't trust the narrative that Camille is telling her, then that's a different problem than what they have. And Camille says, I don't understand why this is taking so long, because I guess the AI had told her that it's going to take a month or two at most, but it's been more than three now. So the overseer spits out some numbers at us, which I'm gonna rely on you because you're like the numbers lady. But he says that they have 352 years of data that tells them that this memory replacement thing that they're doing, this protocol, is effective most of the time. That 6 silos have successfully undergone full resets, including silo 18 with Salvador Quinn. It says that sometimes there are outliers like Juliet, and that it tells her to continue her meds for 2 more weeks, tighten her security, and just keep trying to convince her that she's Juliet's best friend, her most trusted ally. Don't trust her.
Yeah, I'm really interested in this idea of a full reset and what that actually means.
All right, and next we go to a flashback. It's Daniel with Charlotte. He's showing her pictures of their house because I guess she's like fully just blank slate. She
Hmm.
doesn't she doesn't know. He's like telling them about the neighbor's dogs chasing them to their house, and how when he got when he got made the Georgia Bulldogs mascot, that she laughed at him so hard she pissed herself. And I thought it was so cute that she's like, I don't sound like a very nice sister.
Yeah. Like, it doesn't sound like I'm a very nice person.
I just the way that she said it, it was just really cute. I like that. But we learned that their mother's name was Grace, their dad's name was William, and later on he tells, I think the doctor, that their parents died when they were little. But one thing to note, she calls him Donald by accident, which is a book Easter egg because they actually changed the character Daniel from the character in the book whose name was Donald.
That makes sense, I
So
think.
when in season two, when we learned that his name was Daniel, all the book readers were like, "What? What happened with Donald?"
I mean, it kind of makes sense. I mean, Daniel, let me just say Daniel sounds like a more reasonable name in 2026 than Donald, and I'll leave it at that. Sorry, Donalds who are listening to this.
People can read between the lines. It's not too hard to surprise what you're saying. But Daniel goes to get coffee, and the machine spits at him, and a man gets up from the couch to help him, and it turns out that he is Charlotte's doctor. And because Daniel had said, "Oh, my sister, who I've known my entire life, just looks at me like I'm her Uber driver now," and he's like, "Oh, I think that's my fault."
It was such a weird way to introduce himself to, by the
I
way.
know, yeah, and plus, I thought it was funny that he's like just. It kind of like he was almost napping behind him when he was getting his coffee. But he introduces himself as Dr. Victor Stankovic. A couple things to note about this scene. What did you think about the open candy dish? I was like, oh
Yeah,
my
I
god.
didn't even pay attention to it, but like maybe this isn't a pre-COVID or no COVID world where we're just gonna have candy out in the open. I mean, they still have RSV and stomach bug things and all of that, but yeah.
I was just like, oh my god, did you guys learn nothing from 2020? This is like past 2020, I think. So, like, oh my god, we've fully reverted back to like just whatever with germs. Do no children visit this facility because it's just not sanitary. And then something else, I was Googling the actor who plays Dr. Stankovic, and I thought it was really funny because the actor's name is Matt Craven, but it turns out his real last name is Stankovic.
That is kind of crazy.
Yeah. His name is, I think, Matthew John Stankovic.
Okay. I mean, I understand why he changed his
Yeah,
stage name at
yeah,
least, right?
yeah.
Just his stage name.
Cute little homage right there. But so next we have Dr. Stankovic talking to Daniel about his treatment method, which kind of sounds like it's specific to this clinic, right? It's something that he's developed and honed over the years.
Yeah, and I found this scene to be really I think this is a key part of the episode for me.
Yeah, yeah. Because he starts explaining the whole methodology of like, he says that there's like a gap between upstairs and downstairs, and that they have to stop her medication at some point, and then they're going to bring her memories back at that point. So that's what he needs Daniel for. He needs him to fill in like a blank slate, like what he's doing now with the pictures and stuff, right? But
Right.
he needs to do that, like, I think after more of her treatment is what he was saying. Because he says specifically, if we medicate her too long, the bridge becomes permanent. So, what that? Okay, so this scene is really important because it basically outlines what they're doing to Juliet in the present, right?
Right.
It shows why the overseer is having Camille do these things to Juliet and what they plan to do eventually, right? So,
Right. Like the planting of the memories and like leaving out the ones you don't want. And
yeah.
yeah, I just kind of question like the
Although it
ethical.
does, yeah, it does seem slightly different though, and I feel like that was interesting because the way that he outlines it is a little more ethical, even though it's like already morally like questionable at this point. But like what it is in the present is much more nefarious.
Yeah, and I mean like you would also expect it to be different too because this is sort of the origin. And I mean it could be I don't want to say this is where it's headed, but I can kind of I get this sense of like this seems like something that might be really good if you're an injured
Mm-hmm.
soldier or
Mm-hmm.
you have some kind of traumatic brain injury, right? Is this idea that like it's kind of like severance. I know everyone we were talking about this
Yeah. Yeah.
in the server, like everyone says severance when you're talking about silo, but it's kind of a similar concept to severance. I'm sorry. But I think the idea is a little bit different here in terms of we're gonna choose which memories we're gonna keep and we're gonna throw away the traumatic ones and you never have to like live with those anymore. And I can see the benefit in that being a good thing that we want to do to help people that quickly gets out of control when certain people get their hands on it.
Yeah, yeah. So like that's what I mean. Like it might be in with good intentions with Dr. Shankovich, but maybe when Stenson gets like proprietary rights to this technique, he turns it into something much more towards his what he wants to do, right?
Well, and he probably already has a proprietary rights to it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but
If
when
he's
we get
funding him, yeah.
yeah, but when we get into the it's like a classic like is science neutral? Like is there a neutrality to science and scientific and technological development? Because I mean, I don't imagine many people who are making these types of developments are thinking about it in terms of like I want to go and just fuck up humanity real bad, you know? It's more so like they're doing it because they have an interest and like we can help people, this can solve this issue, you know, like I would say most academics I think are they're problem solvers, right? They're not looking to
Yeah,
create the problems, they want to solve them. And I can see these scientists like wanting to solve problems, but then you get people who are like, well, where's the money in solving your problem?
yeah.
And is there really money in helping injured soldiers recover memories and throw away traumatic memories, or is there money somewhere else?
That's the other thing too, is people who want to solve these issues want to do things that cost a lot of money, right? So often they have to go to like the the people who don't have morals or don't have the same motivations as them, because they're the people with the money. Like, it
Mhm.
looks like he went to a billionaire to fund his research, and in the end it kind of seems like Stenson is going to just take it and just use it for the silos in a way that he probably never intended, because and like we'll get to that later, but there's some point where Daniel jokingly asks, could I lie to her? And Dr. Sankovich was like, why would you do that? So he seems like he's got morals, right?
Mm.
So,
And
but you can still get shades of what ended up happening. That's ended up what happening, planting a lie, right?
right. And if I could just add, I think, you know, when people are like, oh, this is like severance, I think the severance connection here really is the scientific and technological development piece. Because, you know, in the last season of that show, we learned that this technique was probably created for something that was meant to be a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then once it gets put into this corporation slash cult's hands, it gets used to be something that is kind of morally repugnant.
Yeah.
Um, and maybe it's
I
not
mean,
about
to the
making
point where
money.
there's protests, right? There's people who
Right,
actively protest against this company, and they're considered to be
right,
like they don't have a good reputation in the public, right?
right. And so I'm like, I just want to be clear. That's the comparison that I'm making here
Yeah.
when I'm like, it's kind of like Severance, not to just be obnoxious and talk about
Well,
Severance.
I mean, to make another, since you bring that up, I keep hearing the Severance music in the score of this season,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
That's a stuttering. I hear it constantly, especially in this last episode.
Is it the same composer? I'm asking you because this
No,
is the
I
kind of
looked it
question you
up.
would know.
It's different. It's different composers.
Or maybe it's like it's music that Apple owns.
Maybe. I mean, I don't know, but I swear I hear it, and I'm just like I know I'm not imagining it.
No, it does actually. Yeah, you're right. And someone mentioned that in the server too.
That was
Um,
probably me.
I was like, this sounds like Severance.
So while Dr. Shankovich is trying to explain it to him, he asks Daniel, "Oh, what do you do all day?" He's like, "Well, I just right now I just call up strangers and beg them for money." Uh, and Dr. Stankovich is, yeah, that's right. But he says, you tell them a story. And he says that telling stories is our only superpower, which was a line that I really liked. I love that. He says, everyone is just a collection of stories, and memory is our internal biography. And he
Hmm.
said the medication has erased the book of Charlotte. And when they stop the meds, that's when Daniel can fill up her memory again. And he says they can bring back the Iran mission just without the trauma. And that's the point where Daniel asks, could I tell her a lie? And he's like, why would you lie to her? And he says, because she has a few opinions of me that I wouldn't mind her forgetting. I really like the sibling dynamic that they've built between them. They're just the
Yeah.
way that she clearly gives him relentless shit about everything.
Yeah. And I get the impression with Daniel, and I was going to mention this a little bit later. He's one of those characters. He's not, I think we're going to see him take a turn through the season.
Yeah, yeah. So is he the younger sibling or the older sibling?
Mm, I don't get a good sense of that.
Yeah, I don't know if they've stated that yet.
She kind of has little sister energy, though.
Yeah, yeah, I was gonna say the same thing. That's the vibe I get. She's the punky younger sister. Maybe not by a lot of years though. Maybe they're pretty close in age.
Yeah.
But the whole thing, like I said, the whole thing about Daniel asking, "Could I tell a lie?" It was very it was good foreshadowing. Like this whole scene really mapped out really well what they're doing to Juliet right now, and I really this it was very well written. I was very impressed.
Yeah. Like I do like how we're switching back and forth and getting that's kind of where this is headed. Okay.
Yeah, so and he tells him that they're gonna need items from her childhood to help bring back her memories because he says there's shortcuts to memories, and I was like, oh, that's why Apple sent us duck relics. It's gonna be important later. That's good. I was like, okay, they're gonna use the duck. They're probably gonna bring it back because
Probably.
they've been showing the duck in like the recaps, right? And they showed it in the trailer, and like it's important. So I
Well,
feel
and
like
then also from the Origins clip, we can see that clearly Helen and Daniel's relationship is meant to be sort of the centerpiece of this.
yeah.
I don't want to call it a B plot because that presumes it's like a lesser plot, but this other story that's going on, like they're meant to be at the center of that.
Yeah. So Daniel says that this is the part where he tells him that their parents died when they were really young and they went to live with their aunt, so they don't have a lot of things from their childhood. And then Cernkovich tells him that there's something else that's in her head like a soul and it won't be controlled by anyone. So about 10% of the time the treatment doesn't work. So this is what's happening with Juliet, obviously,
Hmm.
right? She's got something, maybe like relentless stubbornness, maybe.
Yeah.
But that's what he's talking about. She's one of the 10% where it's not working on her, and she still remembers things despite the medication, and she's picking at something. There's this thing that she had to do, and she's fixated on that, and I think that's what the overseer is really concerned about. So One thing I really that stood out to me was he says that the medication is a safety gap between upstairs and downstairs, and I thought, oh, that's a kind of cool mention of like the literal gap in the silo today, right? There's like they
Right.
call it the gap, and then you have to like pull people up and down. I thought that was kind of cool,
Yeah.
very clever little thing they put in there. But the implication with this whole filling Charlotte's book back up is that anyone who has access to Charlotte can do the exact same thing, right? Like he may be
Mhm.
telling Daniel that you can fill her head up with all these good family memories, but on the he's not going to be there all the time, right? Anna could come,
No.
Senator Thurman could come, anybody with like that's part of this Iran because I say Thurmans because they're on the Iran committee, so maybe they have things to hide. So I feel like they would be the ones to come and brainwash her, basically, right?
Yeah, and I mean, like, there was a point made, I think, a little bit later in the episode about she's the only one who survived this.
Yeah,
Like, everyone
everybody
else
else
on
is
this mission
dead.
is dead. And so there is going to be, on one hand, they want her to, like, they didn't say this, but I'm reading between the lines. If this is all, let's say, a smoke screen, if we shall, you want the one person who survived to survive, right? And be the hero and be sort of the face of, we went and we bombed, we prevailed, everything was great. You want that person to be the face, right? You don't want that person
Yeah,
to completely die.
and you want them to
But
be malleable, right?
right, right. And you want them to like tell the story that you want told, not the like, what was all this goo all over the gear and the why were
Yeah.
we falling,
Why were we?
because
Because she talks about like later on, Helen talks about what Charlotte was concerned with, right? So the next scene is Paul in his office. He's looking at his edits of the pact. I tried to read it, but it was too hard. It was too blurry. But a deputy knocks and says, "There's a woman here about a missing persons report. She won't leave until she talks to you." And so he lets her in, and Orla is missing. I was like, "Shit!"
I feel like we called that though.
Yeah, we did, but I was like hoping, it wasn't going to happen because I really like Orla. But god damn it, she's she's missing.
I was just like, yeah, okay, girl, see you never.
Ah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. We kind of called that one.
Yeah. But she says her sister never checked in with her. She says she does it every night, and that even though that's their deal, so that they don't worry about each other, and that she lied to her parents and said that she just stayed with her that night, but she knows in her bones that something is wrong. So Paul sends a message to Carla because Orla's her shadow. And then we go back to the flashbacks. Daniel is meeting Anna in a coffee shop, and he's telling her what's going on with Charlotte and how he feels like he's Frankenstein. And I thought this was weird. She says she's been thinking about going to see Charlotte, and I was just like, uh oh. I was just thinking it's bad if somebody goes to see Charlotte and they don't have good intentions. Here Anna is saying, I'm going to go visit your sister.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't really take it that way. I took it that way of like, oh, I'm gonna go visit her because like she's important and we want to use her. But like, do you
But
think
I don't
Anna?
trust this lady. I don't
But do you?
trust her.
But do you think she has enough intel to be on the inside of that way? Like,
I
her
don't
mom
know.
would. Her mom could be, and I don't know.
But we talked about this a little bit the last episode, is that
Hmm.
it seems like Anna is maybe the one with the power in that dynamic. That's her mother, and it kind of seems like she's hinting that her mom is like getting old, not always thinking about things, and like maybe she's the true politician behind the scenes. So,
Well, that would not be like anything that we've seen in real life, at all whatsoever.
but Helen walks into the coffee shop. I don't know where this coffee shop is. It must be back in DC, right?
It has to be.
Yeah. But he introduces them, and she already knows who she is. She says, "Oh, everyone says that the senator's talking points are bulletproof ever since you joined her team." So that's more support, I think, for what I'm trying to say is that Anna is the true like Thurman in this in this seat in the Senate that she has. But then Tanya says, "Me and Helen went on a date." She like this poor guy. He's he's so clueless, and it was so funny. Like later on, Helen says, "No, you idiot." It's just that's just the way that he just seems like such a babe in the woods, right?
I mean, that's yeah, that's sort of what my take of Daniel is that like he just doesn't know how the game is played at all.
I just want to help the people, which is a good thing, but
I mean, I just feel
not gonna
like
get very far.
yeah, I just feel like over the course of the season, he's gonna probably. I think we're gonna witness some change with Daniel because he's not. I think right now you're right. He's kind of like a babe in the woods, a little too innocent. Like even telling Anna that like he knew Helen, and then in this scene, like talking to Helen and being so upfront about the fact that he talked to a reporter.
Yeah,
It's
because she
just
gives
so
him shit
weird.
about it later, right? She's
Right,
like,
you gave it to her for free. Like,
yeah,
you didn't get anything
yeah.
out of it.
But Helen's like, "Oh, I came by to look for you, and because I wanted to go visit Charlotte." And she asks, "Oh, is she at Walter Reed?" And he says, "No, she's at the Stenson Clinic." She's like, "Oh," like she immediately knows that if she's there, then it's because somebody pulled strings because she
Yeah.
can't afford it on her own.
And
And then
something is afoot, right? Like,
yeah,
something's going
yeah.
down.
And Anna's defense here is that, well, if you looked into Dr. Sternkovich, you would learn that he's been treating combat veterans for free for years. And and so Helen, like, busts out all this info because she apparently knows all about him. She says his first project was in prison populations, which, oh my God, the silo people, I mean, if you think about it in certain terms, they're in a prison, right? They're in
Right.
a place that they can't get out of, right?
I mean, I was gonna
but
say it kinda depends on your definition of prison, right? Because
but
it could be considered a society.
yeah, but I mean, it kind of sounds like this is another thing that maybe Stenson has claimed, right? He's probably got all kinds of information and data on how people interact and survive and evolve in an enclosed setting where they can't leave. And that's essentially a silo, right?
I mean, yeah, and I mean, like, there's strict rules. I mean, this is why I'm saying society, or is it a prison? Because, like, there's these really strict rules. You can't leave.
Mm-hmm.
There's not any real
And there's enforcers.
autonomy.
If you
Yeah.
break the rules, you get the death sentence.
Right, and you don't really have any sort of, like you have no way to vote for your leaders. Like, these are just people these are essentially your prison guards, and this came up later in the episode
I
as
mean,
well with
they
Juliet.
they have the illusion of electing their leaders, but they don't
Mhm.
know that those aren't the true leaders, right? Like the true leader of
Right.
the silo is the head of IT, right? Because he has access to the server room and he talks to the overseer. And because, yeah, it was Bernard. I mean, on the surface, everybody thinks that the person in charge is the sheriff and the mayor. But in
Mhm.
reality, it's more like the judge and head of IT. So, and they do that on purpose, right? They want to cloak themselves so that the people who are the visible leaders take the heat when something goes wrong, right?
Right,
And they
and
can operate in the shadows.
yeah, and I mean, it's also, again, like, a good I see silos having, like, 4 branches of government and, like, with sort of the sheriff being at the lowest,
Yeah.
and so, yeah, I mean, I think you're right in terms of, like, who takes the heat and who makes the real decisions.
Yeah. Because, like, the sheriff's department is like local police, and like judicial is like the feds, right?
Mhm.
And then the mayor is like the politician, the person who like suits over and talks to the people and things like that. And like the head of IT is like the mastermind behind it all at the NSA,
Well, I
watching
mean, I feel like
everybody.
well, I kind of feel like it's more so you have the mayor as, like, the king or queen.
Mm.
Head of IT is more so like your, prime minister, and
Mm.
overseer is more like your parliament. Yeah, I went to the British system 'cause we don't have anything quite like that, but that's kinda how it feels. It's like layers on layers, right?
Yeah. Helen says his second project was in first year recruits who don't get a say in their medication treatment. Which is what they're doing to Juliet. She says essentially that he wiped out their memories, and she's saying this in a negative light. But Anna defends him, saying that, well, you could look at it like that, but you could also say that he helps veterans forget their trauma. He helps criminals become reformed members of society. And Helen still insists, but he gets to decide what they become, basically, because of the way his treatment works.
Mhm.
And she asked Daniel, like, doesn't that worry you? And he doesn't, I think he doesn't know how to respond, right? He's not sure. He kind of like doesn't really answer. He's like,
Mhm.
yeah, well, yeah, but because I think it's hard, right? Because on the one hand, he wants her to get better, he wants his sister back. So he might be willing to make allowances on what he might not be okay with, just so that he can get her back, right? So,
Mhm.
and she says, "Doesn't it seem like he is just using injured vets to test his theories, like guinea pigs, right? They're his guinea pigs." And I mean, is he being devious, like, or is it just like a win-win kind of situation? And so that's where I think Dr. Stankovich's intentions come into play, and where I think Stenson will twist it. So,
I mean, yeah, because I mean, if you think about it too, like the only reason we know what PTSD is because they tested a bunch of like injured World War I veterans that they're like, oh, this person has shell shock. I wonder what that's about. Maybe we need to figure that out and test some things out. Likewise, even though it's fallen out of favor, that's why we have animal testing on a lot of
yeah,
medications and cosmetics because like you want these layers of tests, but I think when you start saying, "Oh, he started on prison populations," you're like, "Wait a minute, that's people." But they're not like there's a stigma against prisoners where people don't see them as people and like they're expendable people, if you know what I mean. And then you
yeah.
go to like, oh, the military people, well, they signed up to do whatever the government said, and so it's yeah, there's some ethics here at play. Interested to see where this goes.
Anna mentions that Victor lost his wife and child in an accident when he fell asleep at the wheel, which, oh. So that I feel like puts him a little more in the good intentions like side of
I don't
things.
see it that way. That was a shut her down kind of moment for me. Like
Uh,
she was just trying to shut like I don't know. I didn't really see it that way in terms of his intentions because like I'm already reading his intentions as not entirely bad yet. But like the way Anna says that, she just kind of drops it like, well, he lost his family
mm.
and sort of like to shut her
Because
up.
how do you answer that, right, without sounding like a
Right.
cold bitch?
Right. That's kind of how I took it.
Okay. But Helen leaves and Anna turns it down and she scolds him for meeting with a reporter and thinking he was on a date. And he reminds him that meetings with people like her are always transactional and that he had thought that she was with the Post, but she's apparently not. She works at some online sleaze factory, which they don't name. I used to work for an online sleaze factory, by the way. I got the impression that they were like implying like Huffington Post kind of thing.
Yeah, or BuzzFeed.
Yeah, but she's like, you gave her something and got nothing because you told her where Charlotte is.
Yeah, and so I kind of mentioned this already. I was just gonna say like she's not entirely wrong. He doesn't know how the DC game is played at all.
Yeah,
And so I do think like from the live event that we saw a couple weeks ago, this is gonna be a plot point for the season.
no, I can't wait. It's really playing out nicely.
Yeah.
So next it goes to the present where Jules looking at various notes that she's received, and then she remembers Shirley delivering the box of hush puppies before she went out to clean. She remembers Martha's note again, and she leaves her apartment. And the deputy, I think his name is Jerry,
Yeah.
tells her that Camille has asked me to log your movements a little more formally. And so the first note that she was holding says, first council meeting at noon today in Mid's cafeteria. The other one I couldn't fully read. It says, for help sleeping. And then I couldn't read it. And it says, take no more than, and then I couldn't read it. And it says, take with food. Like, what do you think that one's about?
I mean, to me it sounds like instructions for sleeping pills, but like I don't know. They're already giving her memory pills, so I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, I was confused by that one. But Jules goes down to the Gap, and Shirley is talking about how they need more rebar. But as soon as she sees Jules, she goes and hides. Basically, she tells Teddy to cover for her, and she goes into the like some control room where Knox is, and he's like, you need to talk to her," but she says that she can't. We don't know why yet. And she was very against seeing her in the first episode too, like in
Mhm.
that lunch. Like she got really emotional, and I thought that it was just that she's just it's just painful for her to see Jules in this state. But they explain later why it's
Mhm.
so painful for her. But Teddy is trying to talk around Juliet, who wants to go down the gap, and Knox comes out, and he's like, "Why do you want to go down?" And she's like, "I'm the mayor. Why do I need to give a reason?" And he's like, "I'm in charge of reconstruction, so no one goes up or down without my say so." And I was like, "Wait, but I thought in the first episode they said Shirley was in charge of reconstruction." So I was like, "What?"
But she doesn't wanna see Juliet though, right? So, like,
Yeah. Okay.
maybe he's just
Maybe
saying
he's
that
just
so
saying
that
that. Okay. But Jules goes up to him and she's like, "We knew each other, right?" And I feel like we didn't always see eye to eye. And I was like, "Well," because she was his shadow, right? So,
Mhm.
but she wants to talk to Martha. So that's why she's come downstairs. And he says that she went up to 60 to get medical supplies. So she'll be back eventually. So they're going to wait. And he wants to talk to her. So he mentions that Camille told him all these instructions how not to fuck up her memory. And I was like, oh, so they've been
Mhm.
given like specific rules to talking to her, which makes me sad because these are her like besties,
Yeah, but I mean,
right?
it's a good way to control her memory recovery slash
Yeah,
implantation,
yeah.
right?
To scare them into thinking you're going to hurt her if you talk to her too roughly.
Mhm.
But he wants to know from her because when Jules had talked to Shirley in the first episode, she specifically asked her about Bernard. She said, "Did I tell you something that I needed to do?" Because she's trying to figure this out. This is what's niggling at her brain.
Mhm.
Knox tells her that during the rebellion, Bernard's shadow, which is Lucas, came down and said that he knew her, and that when she went over the hill, someone saw her go in somewhere else, and that Shirley took Lucas to the Digger Void, but she doesn't know what happened after that. And he tells her that maybe this guy Lucas can help her remember, and that his this guy can help you remember. His name is Lucas Kyle. A couple notes about this scene. I had noted down in our silo spreadsheet that medical was on level 62, not 60 in previous season. There's also medical level on 85, so I wasn't sure why Martha had to go on extra 25 levels up, but I don't know. Just noting that down. And then next we see Helen. Sure enough, like Anna was implying, Helen goes and sneaks in pretending to be Daniel's assistant so that she can talk to Charlotte. Then it cuts back to Knox and Jules again. They're talking somewhere while they wait for Martha. And she asks, "Why didn't Shirley come tell me all this?" And he's like, "Well, she's really hurt." And he tells her about how when she first came back to the silo, Shirley camped outside her hospital room for 10 days straight, and she wouldn't leave, and that he had to pretty much carry her back to mechanical, which I thought in like a literal sense, I was like, wow, that's 144 floors.
Yeah.
And she was probably kicking and screaming the whole time. But he says that then rumors started that she couldn't remember anything, but Shirley didn't believe it because she thought she wouldn't forget her best friends, right? So
Mhm.
he says that she ran all 44 floors up to go to her first meet and greet, and she waited for everybody to talk to her, and she went last, and then Juliet just looked straight through her. And so that made it all make sense to me, just because I can see her doing that, and then, oh my God, this just crushes her, right?
Right. Because, I mean, like, even if you understand that she doesn't have the memories, like, I think the pain of, like, this person that you know not knowing you is a lot, and so she's dealing with her emotions in her own way.
Well, plus, like, what had led up to it, like, she was so worried about her before she came back, and she had this tiny little hope that she might still be alive. She was like a big part of the whole Juliet Lives thing, right?
Mhm.
And then to see her come back over the hill, it must have just been like life altering kind of for her, right? Like she
Yep.
had thought she lost her best friend, but she held out hope against what everybody was telling her. And then she actually comes back. But then she doesn't actually come back because the person who comes back just doesn't know her anymore. And so I
Right.
it was so sad to me. So I thought it was so funny though that and then Martha comes along and she's
Mhm.
like Miss Tough as Nails. She has the complete opposite reaction. She's like totally snarky and sassing at her and everything.
Right. Well, because Martha's like, "You're gonna remember who I am one way or the other."
She's like, "Can I still ask you if you like coffee or are you too fragile?" I love Martha. But she asks her, "What have they been telling you?" And she's like, "Well, they've told me that I spent a lot of time in your workshop." And they go into the cafeteria and people are like, "Oh, it's the mayor. You can go first." And she's like, "No, she can wait like everybody else.
Yeah.
It's just Jules."
I've always liked their relationship because, like, I think it was in the first season we learned that, like, technically Juliet should have never been down in a mechanical, but she wanted to go after her mom died
Yeah.
and just sort of what happened with her dad. And so I like their relationship and how it forms and how, like, Martha is just like, on one hand, she obviously likes Juliet a lot because she's the reason she's alive. But she also doesn't really buy into this whole like mayor narrative and like she's the second coming type thing.
Yeah. So, slight book spoiler, but Martha in the books was a man and they just called him Walker.
Which makes sense because they often just call her Walk.
Yeah. Yeah. But Juliet says, "I understand. I used to work on the generator." And the way she's speaking is so formal, which is like very different from how Juliet was. Like the way she speaks sounds very Camille-ish, right?
Well, yeah, because I mean Camille's been basically
Yeah,
telling
filling her
her,
head, right?
right? And
She's filling up the book of Juliet.
right. And like I think you mentioned it last week. Well, actually it was in the last episode where I think it was Shirley that points out she's wearing a dress and everything, and that's just not Juliet.
Yeah, she would be caught in dead in that dress.
Yeah, she's a, I forget what she called her. She didn't call her a greaser, but she called her something else. And it's basically like she's one of us. Like she wouldn't be
Yeah,
walking around
yeah.
like this.
But Juliet wants to know from Martha, like, why do we spend so much time together? And Martha tells her, "You came to me for advice, which you never took due to pig-headedness and arrogance." So I love that about Martha, that she just always keeps her humble.
Right, right.
But and I liked when she orders their coffee. She's like, "Two black coffees, hold the fawning." So, one thing I wanted to note was they do seem to be telling her true things from her past. And that seems like a good way for them to hide behind what they're actually doing, what the overseer is actually doing, right? So like they tell her all these details that are true so that, like when Martha asks, "What have they been telling you?" She recites back things that are actually true. So it makes it seem like, oh, okay, so they're actually not trying to brainwash her. They're telling her all these things that are actually true, but I feel like it's just a smokescreen, right?
Yeah.
So Julia tells her why she wanted to talk to her. She says that she got a note last night, and she asks if Martha sent it. And she says no, it wasn't her. And she asks, "Oh, what did the note say?" And when she hesitates to tell her, she says, "You don't trust me?" But Julia says she remembers a note about supply and the heat tape swap, and that she says you would never do that for just anyone. So I must be special to you, basically. She's saying, right?
Mhm.
Uh, and she says the note told her to go to the marketplace in two. And she's like, "Should I go?" And Martha says, "One of the most irritating things about you was that if there was a decision to be made and everyone was leading one way, you'd go in the opposite way." And the irritating part was that 99% of the time she was right. So she tells
Mhm.
her to follow her gut. And when Juliet still doesn't really know what to do, Martha gets irritated and she's like, "Well, bye." she gives her she gives her a multi-tool because it kind of seems like she's like, "Well, you're just wasting my time. I'm gonna leave. I got shit to do."
Right. And is she's not under surveillance anymore, is she? Or is she still under surveillance?
I
I mean,
don't
everybody's under
know.
surveillance,
I
but
mean,
like,
Bernard was the one who was requiring her to have her camera on, so maybe not. Maybe she just turned it back off once she heard that he was gone. So, but this is where we get the line that Julia says that she gets splinters of memories, but they always slip away. And she says, "I don't know what to do." And Martha's just like, "Well, try harder."
You'll get no sympathy from her.
Nope. Suck it up, girl. So next we go back to Helen. She's taking Charlotte out to the garden and she asks, "Have you had any military visitors yet? Trying to like see if you vomit up any important secrets." And she says, "Oh no, it's mostly my brother and he's trying to get me to remember him." And Helen's like, "Well, okay, so just to let you know, I'm a reporter." And she tells her that they met a couple times before and she was hoping to tell her some things to help stir up her memories. And she starts taking notes on her notepad. And this is like a visual cue, kind of like how Juliet's been experiencing with the notes and things like that. I think this is what Dr. Shankovich was talking about, right? He
Right.
said they're shortcuts to memory. So Charlotte sees her writing, and she remember. They show us like a flashback of them talking in a car in the rain and
Hmm.
everything, but she starts shaking, right, visibly, and she looks very disturbed, and she flinches away from Helen. And oh my god, the gray-haired man from the metro station was inside watching them,
So maybe
right?
she wasn't paranoid.
Yeah, it was the same guy, right?
I think so. I think we're
Yeah,
meant to think that that's the same guy.
yeah. So it goes back to Julia. She's heading to the marketplace with poor Jerry. Her fangirls spot her, and there's four of them now. I think there were three of them before, but now there's four. And Jules like, "Oh, I could use some space. Could I like take off for half an hour?" He's like, "No, Mrs. Sims would use my intestines for dental floss," which is quite a visual.
Yeah, but I get what he's saying.
Yeah. And more Juliet stands approach and seeing an opportunity, like when Jerry like kind of like touches her to move, like to protect her, and she yells at him, "Did you just touch me?" And I was like, "Oh, Juliet, come on." But her fangirls attack basically, right? They're
Right.
like, yeah, they come to her defense and they literally tackle him to the ground. But one, and then that Juliet uses this opportunity to take off, and one of her fangirls follows her. Um, a raider taps Juliet on the shoulder and asks if she's lost, and she whispers for her to come if she wants to know the truth. And I could tell immediately it was Sandy, because Sandy's another lady I don't like just because how sassy she was. I was like, "Ah, this secretary, she's so full of lip."
Yeah.
But they pass a hooded woman sitting with her wrist bound, which is who they had been looking for based on like janitorial they had been talking about. Oh, that one looked like she hurt her wrist.
Yeah.
But so you know that she's gonna go talk to outsiders at this point. She's that lady's like one of the people who broke into IT. It goes back to Daniel at the clinic. He's arriving because I guess he got word that Helen had tried to speak to Charlotte, and uh, Charlotte's having something like a panic attack, and Dr. Snarkovich is trying to lead her through a breathing exercise. And then outside her room, Daniel asks, "Oh, did you call the police?" He's like, "No, we were waiting for you." And so they go into the room with Helen. And then we go back to Juliet. She's taken to a room, and there's Patrick and Danny. I
Yeah.
was like, "Yay!" There they are again, because I like Patrick and Danny.
Again, nice layering of the scenes here because you're having the memory breakthrough,
Yeah.
consequences of that, and you're getting the Juliet here, um, where, we're about to see if we can't trigger some memories for her too.
So we find out that Sandy sent the notes, and Patrick just asked her, "Why are you lying about the outside?" Because just to recap, he was one of the people in the room when Danny broke through the hard drive and they found that cleaning video, the blue screen one that is shown to the cleaners when they go out inside their helmets, but they don't know that it's inside the helmet. So when they ask her what she saw outside, she's like, "I see what you see, the desolate
Right.
landscape, like the world is dead." But he's just adamant, right? Because he thinks that what she's supposed to have seen, what she did see, was the green one.
Yeah.
So Patrick asks her, "What if your injury isn't from the fire?" And he asked her, "Have you been asked to take a lot of pills lately?" And she's like, "Well, yeah." I liked, when they're introducing
Yeah.
themselves. Sandy says, "You didn't," because they were like, "You screwed up my life showing me this video, and you screwed up my life because you did this." And Sandy's like, "You didn't screw up my life, but I still don't like you."
I mean, she's honest.
So it goes back to the past. Helen is walking out and Daniel is following her. And he's like, "What the fuck are you doing to my sister?" And she's like, "Okay, our non-date wasn't random." And he accuses her of coming to him when Charlotte wouldn't give him the story she wanted. And this is the point where she's like, "You idiot. She came to me and she couldn't talk to me, so she wanted me to help by going to you." So she said she couldn't ask certain questions and she could only point her to Daniel. So
Yeah, so I do wonder what that's about. It's clearly the Iran bombing issue,
yeah.
but I want to know more.
She says that something was fishy with the Iran mission, and she says she questions whether the dirty bomb attack was even real. And I was like, is that something that can be faked? Like, what happened? What
So,
is
not that it's something that can be faked so much as like it happened, but we're going to put it on Iran, even though we know they didn't do it because we want to bomb them. See Iraq and Afghanistan,
uh,
2003. Yeah, that's kind of how I took it.
but
But
Charlotte told her that the mission into the mountains that she was going on was going to be using bunker busters, that they had pulled out all their comm systems and installed old tech from the 80s, and it was practically like flying tomcats. And she points out that everyone in her squadron is dead, and suddenly she's at this billionaire Stenson clinic.
and also having rewatched Battlestar Galactica not that long ago, I think that's interesting that it's all old tech because
Mm.
that's if you've ever seen that show, spoilers.
Yep. Yep.
Um, the reason that there is one fleet that does so much better than the rest is because they're using older technology. And so when they get attacked, all of these other much more advanced fleets are just dropping like
They just
flies
drop.
because
Yeah.
they have the technology that can be easily corrupted, whereas the ones with the older technology, they survive longer because they're not connected, they can't be hacked, but it's also harder because they have the older technology.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that mini opening. The
Yeah.
mini series was really good. Okay, so Camille and Paul talk to one of the fangirls, and she tells him that Julia went in with a raider and they went into a storage room. And they're like, "Well, which one?" She's like, "I'll tell you if you give me something." She wants a meet and greet for free. Better than
Basically.
paying at a con, right? How much
Yeah.
are meet and greets now?
Probably like $100 or more.
No, probably like two or three. Yeah, I guess it depends who
Seriously?
it is. Yeah, I think I remember
We
reading that
like
the Gillian
people
Anderson ones were like, yeah, a couple hundred, at least a couple hundred.
we like people enough to pay that much money to meet them?
I guess.
Okay, if you say so.
But so back in that storage room, the outsiders show her two helmets. One is one that they stole from IT, where that British guy was like, "Stop."
Stop.
And the one that they stole from the one they stole from IT had number 18 inside the helmet, and the one that Juliet wore back from when she came back says 17. And so looking at that, Juliet has memories of like Solo and like looking at that stack of books with the fire suit in it, and just some of her 17 memories. And Sandy tells her that you held up a sign that said, "What? Not safe, do not come out." And she says she worked for her. She knows her handwriting and she didn't write that note. So who did? Which I thought was an interesting detail. Like,
Mhm.
and then I wanted to ask, like, what possible reason could the silos have for putting their silo number inside the cleaning helmets?
When you gotta go pick up all the dead bodies outside. Like, whose remains are these? These belong
Oh,
to
it belongs.
17.
Uh, Raiders head to the storage room. The hooded woman with the bandaged arm looks up and it's Kathleen. And I thought it was funny because Paul runs right by her on the
Uh-huh.
way to the storage room. It's like, oh, that's my husband. But she whistles to warn them. And it's like a system where like she whistles, the next person whistles, and eventually gets back to them. They hear it. They're still talking. And they say it's been 92 days since they last saw Lucas Kyle. Juliet hears his name and she's like, "Why are you looking for him?" And she's like asking, like, "Oh, why did he end up as Shadow?" Because this all happened while she was in 17, right? So
Mhm.
she has no idea. But they hear the whistles, and this is this was so funny. They literally just push her out of the room, slam the door, and that's when like they run up to her. So it's like the timing of it was just hilarious to me. That
Yeah.
get out.
Goodbye.
They search the room and they end up seeing like light behind like the sink or something. So they pull away like a secret wall and it reveals like a hole, like a tunnel between like through like several concrete walls. And I immediately thought of Shawshank Redemption.
Yeah.
Right? When they pull
When
all
he
you needed
tunnels. Yeah.
all you needed in front of that wall was a poster of Rita Hayworth.
Yeah. And then just rip it, and then there's a whole ton. I always wondered, like, how he did that. Like, how did he get back every day?
I don't know.
Anyway, different conversation.
But Camille questions Juliet, and she insists that all he did was rant about, like, why are you lying? Why don't you tell people the truth about the outside? And Camille asks about her dream and about Bernard, and whether Patrick asked about this thing that she's been tracking down that she needs to do. Because I think what we can learn from this is Camille and the overseer are concerned that Patrick and the outsiders know that Juliet has some crucial piece of information. She has something she needs to do, so they want to know if they know that, and that's what they're trying to talk to her about.
Yeah, I mean, like, that's pretty clear that, like, the overseer is trying to make sure she doesn't say anything. And I
Yeah,
think that that's why Camille is so I think that's why she's so worried about this, right? Because if they can't get Juliet under complete control, they're gonna have a bigger problem.
yeah, yeah. So Camille's like, this is why I have Jerry watching you, and we need to be a team. Oh, I was so irritated. Just watching her gaslight Jules just drives me crazy.
Yeah.
But Juliet apologizes to her, and Camille explains, "You need to talk to this girl." she's, I love that she's so irritated. Like, no, I don't want to talk to her.
Yeah.
But she's like, "Sorry, we made a deal with her, so it's just for a little bit." And so she's super annoyed, but she's like, "I'm tired," but she introduces them, and she's like, "What's your name?" She's like, "Oh, it's Juliet." And I was like, "Oh my god." She was like,
Yeah.
"We call ourselves that in tribute." And then Juliet notices that she has the same tattoos on her shoulder, and she's like, "Oh, did it hurt?" And she's like, "Do you know what it means?" And she's like, "No. What do they mean?" She's like, "We figured that if you had them, they had to be good," which is so funny because that is such a fangirl thing to do, right?
Yeah, right? Like, it's such a fangirl thing. Also, I'm sure triggered many millennials out there, um, who now have meaningless tattoos, I guess. I don't know.
And like you say meaningless, and it's kind of like that's what Jules basically tells her, right? She's like, but she asks her, "What's your real name?" And she says it's Evelyn. She's like, "Oh, that's a nice name." And then she's like, "But I don't know what they mean. I don't even know. I don't even remember getting them. So I guess you got those marks on your body for nothing." She's kind of mean about it, right?
Yeah, I mean, I understood what she was saying though, which is kind of like,
You're stupid. I can't believe you
s-
did that.
no, not that, but like, stop idolizing me.
Yeah, yeah,
Because, like, at this point, Juliet doesn't even know who she is, but yet all
yeah,
these fangirls are like, "Oh my God, Juliet, we love you so much.
yeah.
We want to be just like you. We're gonna get tattoos just like you." And she's like, "I don't even know why I have that tattoo."
But I mean, I gotta hand it to Evelyn. She does speak up for herself. She says, "Well, maybe you don't remember, but you came back to stop us from killing ourselves. So even if they mean nothing to you, that's what the lines mean to us." Which I thought was a very good answer back to that.
Hmm.
But yeah, never meet your heroes.
I mean, I don't know. I think there's some good, like, critique there in terms of it's not. I mean, I agree with you, right? Like, never meet your heroes. I think is maybe wise, but then also the idea that, like, we put people on pedestals so often,
Yeah, yeah,
right? Like, really, they don't know anything about Juliet. They don't know
yeah.
anything about who she is, what kind of person she is. her thoughts, her dreams, nothing. But they're like, "Oh my gosh, it's Juliet. She's so cool. We're gonna be just like her because she came back." And they idolize her and put her in this position of like infallibility, and no one's infallible. And it's kind of like you've said a couple times, like that's such a fangirl thing to do. I mean, it's great commentary on fan culture, is what it
Hmm.
is.
But I mean, I feel like this is exactly what the overseer and Camille want, right? They want like blind hero worship of Juliet because
Ki
she's like like a pacifying force for the silo, right? And I think they actually say that at some point.
Well, they do say it in the first episode. It's one of the first things we hear, but it's also like what's going on with Charlotte in the other
Yeah.
story, right? Which is like we haven't seen him come out and say it yet. But like there's no way she doesn't become like some kind of poster girl for
Mm-hmm.
this mission, and like she survived and she's the only survivor, and
Mm-hmm.
they're going to put her in a position of like telling the narrative that they want told.
Yeah. Yeah. But so after that meeting, they go back upstairs, and Camille's just like, "Let's not have that day again." The way she
Mhm.
talks to her is so I don't even know the word for it. Just the
It's
way she talks to her, right?
like she's controlling her almost like a child,
Yeah, yeah,
but not quite a child, right? It's just someone who, someone you can maybe control. Let's just leave it at that.
yeah. But Jerry stops her. He's got things to say. He's like, one, that stunt in the market was not cool. Uh,
Agreed. He could have died. Like I thought
I
he was a goner.
know. I felt bad for him, and I like that he actually stood up and spoke for himself. You know, to tell not tell her off, but basically be like, "Don't do that again. That was not cool. I'm like your helper. Like I can't believe you did that to me." And he says, "Two, I don't agree with how they're treating you how we're treating you like a prisoner. And so if you want to get away again, just tell me." And he says he'll find a way to make it work. He'll find a way to make sure his intestines aren't used as dental floss.
Yeah, no, I mean like I liked that part where he says you're my mayor.
Yeah, yeah,
And like is basically giving or at least stating that his allegiance is with her and not necessarily Camille, who's her handler. Maybe that's the word we were looking for a minute ago was handler. She's acting like her handler.
yeah, yeah,
And I like that he used that analogy of prison. Like we're kind of treating you like a prisoner and I'm your prison
yeah.
guard.
Yeah, I mean, he says that, so it's like Evelyn is like teenage fangirl, and he's like mature fanboy, right? Supporter. I did want to note though that the way that Juliet treats and speaks to Evelyn and Jerry, it sounds more like the old Jules. So
Mm,
I feel like that's like a subtle hint that this is her not taking her medications, and this is some of her old personality coming back to the surface. Because I feel like Juliet the mayor would speak gently to anyone who is like super nice to her. Like she would do like the politician thing, be like, "Oh, thank you so much for your support," kind of thing. You know, just she would be nice. But I feel like the way that she talks to Evelyn, kind of with almost disdain, where she's like, "I guess she got those tattoos for nothing then." And the
mhm.
way she tells Jerry, like, "Yeah, you're right. It was really shitty of me." And I feel like Mayor Juliet wouldn't say like words like shitty, you know? So I could sense a subtle shift back to Jules.
Yeah, and I mean if we're saying that we're tracking with the other storyline here, I mean maybe she's that 10% where this isn't going to take because there's like whatever in her mind, like the stubbornness. I
Yep.
mean, I think
Yep.
the just outright annoyance, right, that she feels at some of this.
I mean, Martha said it. She called it pigheadedness, right?
Mhm.
But Paul goes home next and he finds Kathleen wrapping her wrist, and he's like, "You should probably wear long sleeves." You know, they're looking for someone with a damaged wrist. And he tells her, "I've been looking the other way for weeks." And they have a fight about it. He tells her that daily he chokes on the irony of being asked to rewrite the pact, which is something that he's revered as this like document set in stone. And now he's being asked to change it. So he that does not sit well with him. He basically yells at her. He's like, "Don't break into IT. Don't grab the mirror." Like basically
Mhm.
telling her stop being so unhinged.
Yeah, I mean cuz she's putting them all in real danger.
Yeah, but I mean the poor this poor couple. They're both really struggling, and But a message arrives, and there's still no sign of Orla. Sad. Making a sad face.
We called it though. Come on.
Yeah. But the nurse comes and checks on her, gives her her vitamins, and she departs. Juliet spits them out and she leaves to go to the cafeteria, saying she's hungry. She looks at the sky. The cafeteria looks closed, so I don't know. I was confused by that, but she looks at the sky and remembers looking at constellations with Lucas. The nurse sneaks back into her apartment and checks the sink, and she finds one of the pills in the drain. So I was really confused about that. Is the nurse an outsider? Was she just looking for confirmation that she's not taking the pills, or because we discussed whether we thought she was in on it last episode? So, what do you
Yeah.
think this scene tells us about that,
I mean, if she's on the inside, then she's going to be reporting to the overseer, right, that she's not taking her pills.
or to
Um,
Camille?
yeah. So, I mean, I think we'll know by next episode which side she's on for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah,
But if she's an outsider, then maybe she can report that she's not taking her pills, and so her
yeah,
memories might come back.
yeah. So the last scene is Camille reporting back to the overseer. She says that after it's, and it says that she's basically telling it, "Oh, I think it's working. You know, things seem back on track." But it tells her that after Juliet returned, her survival was unwelcome, but that their data showed that it was possibly beneficial. And then it shows her a graph, like a
Uh-huh.
line graph. And it's got a blue line and a red line, and the blue line is the calming value of Julia's presence as the mayor, which is kind of what I talked about, the way that she speaks, and the way that she's like a pacifying presence. And the red is the risk to the silo if the protocol is unsuccessful, this memory thing. And it says that if the lines cross, she'll have outlived her usefulness, but that removing her as mayor could potentially be destabilizing. So that would be
Mhm.
bad too. So, and then it says, we can only hope that the introduction of the vitamin compound in the water supply happens before then. And this is calling back to something in episode 1 with Orla. They were
Mhm.
talking about the vitamin D shipment from critical supply up to water filtration, and then they show the porters, they had talked about having to use sleds and shut down the stairs and work at night and stuff like that. But yeah, there's these huge barrels labeled vitamin D, and they're gonna put something into the water supply. Yeah, so
Nothing like dosing the population to keep them under control.
oh boy. But that's where the episode ends. I think when we were rewatching season 2, I didn't really like the scenes that they left off on. It felt more like for a series to binge, but I've liked where they've ended the 2 episodes so far.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I think this was a good ending point.
Yeah, they feel more like final ominous teasing kind of thing. I like being left with something like, ooh, instead of feeling like it's cut off in the middle of a scene kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so from our list of pending scenes that we have yet to see, I took off Patrick talking to Jules, telling her, "You're the only person who's gone outside and come back." And then Juliet saying, "I get splinters of memories." That was the one I talked about. I mentioned was when she's talking to Walker. And then the end of the world cannot be stopped. It can only be survived. We saw that in the Origins one. So that's not in
Mhm.
the show. Actually, that's not in the show yet. So we actually didn't get to see a lot of the scenes from the trailer that we had pending. So there's that to look forward to. But yeah, that's the end of the episode. It was a really good one. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I liked it. Like I said, I felt that this kind of rooted me into where this season is going.
The story weaving I thought was really intricate and really interesting. The way that
Yeah.
they seem to be mapping out the protocol that Camille is using on Jules.
And I mean, I'm looking forward to like how they got there because I think that's
Yeah,
going to be important to understanding what the overseer's role is.
yeah. There's going to be like a turning point, right, that we get to see where it goes from one thing to like something else, and that kind of explains like maybe why things turn out the way that they do.
Mhm.
Okay, so other topics. What have we been watching? I finished. I'm still watching FBI, but it was so funny because one of the last episodes I watched in season 5, a woman gets kidnapped, and they're like, and her name is Allison Becker, and I was like, oh my god, she got kidnapped and taken to the silo.
Yeah, well, yeah, and so I have been watching NCIS Los Angeles. I think we're on season 3,
Hmm.
and I've seen it a million times, so I know we're on season 3. I've seen it enough times to know where we are.
Quick self promo Wires from the Deep is brought to you by Pico's House, which offers a comprehensive slate of services for fiction authors. You can visit www.picoshouse.com for details. If you enjoy the interaction between me and Neoshia and happen to watch procedurals, you can check us out on our other podcast, Romcom Detectives. We host Castle Unit, and I co-host with 2 other people for Lucifer and The Mentalist. And speaking of The Mentalist, I'm actually recording this podcast from LA, and I just got through like a whole day of going to go visit Mentalist filming locations, which was really fun. I did the Warner Brothers Studio tour and everything, but
Yeah, I'll have to talk to you about that sometime because like
yeah,
that I've never done a tour in Los Angeles. I'm always there for like actually that's not true.
business.
I've done the well, yeah, I'm usually there for business. I've done Dodger Stadium, but I've never done any of the like the studio tours.
Uh, but yeah, so you can check us out at romcomdetectives.com. Thank you to our listeners for joining us for another episode of Wires from the Deep. If you're enjoying our podcast, be sure to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Leave us a comment and let us know your thoughts in our discussion. Join conversations about the show on the Silo Series subreddit and the Down Deep Discord, where you can participate in discussions with other fans and chat live as new episodes drop. If you want to contact me and Neoshia, you can leave a comment on one of our YouTube videos, or you can email us at crystal@thedowndeep.net. Tune in next week as we break down episode 3, A Dark Web. Bye, everyone.
Bye everyone.